Hey everyone and welcome. We're always celebrating the next big thing in tech, the launch, the rollout, the shiny new system, but what about the end of the road? Today, we're going to talk about that final and frankly, often forgotten chapter in a system's life, its retirement. And you're about to see how ignoring the end can open up a whole world of risk you never even thought about.
So let me ask you this simple question. When a system's job is done, is the risk done too? You think so, right? Flip the switch, walk away, problem solved. But the truth is, it's way more complicated. In fact, that's often when a whole new, kind of spooky chapter of hidden risk is just getting started.
Think about it. Our entire industry pours a ton of energy, money, and careful planning into building and deploying systems. That's the fun part. But retiring them? Whoa, that is a massive blind spot. And in regulated environments, a blind spot that big isn't just an oversight, it's a real danger.
Okay, so let's dig into this. This isn't just about messy housekeeping or leaving some old servers running in a corner. When you're in a regulated space, leaving old systems just lingering without a formal managed retirement process is a direct threat to your compliance, to your data, and to your overall stability.
Here's why that's so scary. An inactive system can still be hooked into live data streams or workflows, so its old, outdated rules can quietly start messing with new processes. It could be influencing critical business decisions or even changing records, and nobody would have a clue until something really bad happens. It's basically a ticking time bomb just sitting there in your infrastructure.
And this brings us right to the heart of the problem. It all comes down to one word: authority. See, when we give a system permissions, access rights, all those connections, that authority doesn't just evaporate the moment we stop using the system. It hangs around. And that lingering authority is exactly where the real danger is hiding. And there's a name for this, and it's a really important one to remember: residual authority. This is the ghost in the machine we're talking about. It's all those leftover access paths, those forgotten data feeds, those permissions that are still active, letting a dead system have influence. Our job is to hunt these ghosts down and get rid of them for good.
So in a perfect world, here's how things are supposed to work. Everything flows through a governed control plane. Every single action has to go through checkpoints, approval gates, change control, validation. It's all logged, it's all audited, everything is accounted for. Super tight, super secure. That's the goal.
But here's what happens when a system is just left behind. That residual authority starts to create these rogue pathways, these back doors that completely bypass that secure control plane. You've got data pipelines still feeding info to the old system, or old access keys that someone could find and use. These paths are totally ungoverned, unaudited, and a massive, massive risk.
And this usually goes wrong in one of two ways. First, people just abandon the system completely, leaving everything plugged in. Or second, maybe they turn off the main function, but they forget to take away its keys to the building. They leave all the access credentials and data feeds wide open. Either way, you get the exact same result: a huge, scary gap in your governance.
So how do we fix this mess? Well, the answer is to have a governed decommissioning process. We have to start treating retirement with the same level of seriousness that we give to deployment. It's not cleanup, it's a formal, controlled, critical project. A really solid retirement process stands on 4 pillars. First, map all your dependencies. You need to know exactly what's feeding data into the system and what other systems are listening to it. Second, preserve the evidence. Archive all those logs and audit trails according to your rules. Third, execute the whole thing under formal change control, just like you would for a major software update. And finally, you have to validate. Double and triple check that every single connection has been cut before you officially call it retired.
And look, this is absolutely non-negotiable, especially in heavily regulated industries like life sciences or anything under what's called GXP. Because if an auditor shows up 2 years from now and asks, "Hey, what happened to this system?" you better have a complete, documented paper trail to prove you retired it correctly and responsibly.
All of this points to a much smarter, more proactive way of thinking. Instead of scrambling to clean up a big mess at the end, what if we design systems for retirement right from the very beginning? Build with the end in mind.
So what does that actually look like? Well, it boils down to a few key principles. First, access shouldn't be some tangled mess. It should be designed so it can be cleanly and completely revoked. Second, dependencies shouldn't be a mystery you have to solve later. They need to be visible and documented from day one. And finally, the system's main documentation should spell out exactly what the criteria are for its own retirement.
Okay, so before we wrap this up, let's be super clear about the scope here. This explainer is all about the why and the what,
not the specific how for your organization. Let's quickly go over what this information does and, just as importantly, does not authorize.
So, what we're doing here is explaining the core principles. We're getting you and your teams ready to think about the entire life cycle of a system, and we're making it really clear why retirement is so critical. Now, what we are not doing is writing your company's specific step-by-step retirement plan, and we're definitely not approving any actions. This is all about giving you the knowledge to act responsibly inside your own company's framework.
And at the end of the day, it all comes down to this. Every system will eventually reach the end of its life. If you ignore that fact, you're leaving a huge security and compliance hole wide open. But if you manage it proactively and responsibly, well, that isn't just a cleanup job. That is a core part of managing risk. It's how you truly close the loop.